Good evening, everybody. I'm Adam Fitzgerald, host of the Dark and Dower, and with me today, second half of Beyond Ground Zero
Mhm.
podcast, Darin Harvey. Darin, good evening, sir.
Hey Adam, how you doing? Thanks for having me on. It's great to see you
Yeah,
again.
yeah, great. Last video we did was a pretty good video, and we got some good feedback from it. So we
Yeah,
wanted to
absolutely.
continue our discussion regarding recommendations, books, films, and people to steer clear from, and also talk about state sponsorship regarding domestic and foreign intelligence
Mm,
services
right.
monitoring the hijackers inside the United States between the years 2000 and 2001.
Yeah, absolutely.
Darin, you just finished a book that I didn't have, and it was your recommendation that you showed me a link to get the book. Very
Hmm.
rare book to get these days. It's from the late Daniel Hopsicker, Welcome to Terrorland. Uh, well, how was the book, by the way?
Yeah. So here's a copy of it
Yeah.
here. I just finished it yesterday. I do recommend it. It does give a clear picture of what was going on in Florida. There is FBI cover up regarding it, especially with the eyewitnesses as well. Rudy Deckers is a big figure. If people are not familiar with Rudy Deckers, he is one of the owners of the Huffman Aviation Center, where Mohammed Atta, Marwan Al Shehi, and others, Ziad Jarrah also flew out of. Um, very, the book really got me thinking, and I did recommend it to you. I do recommend it to your followers and people we talk to. It's fairly cheaper now. I think it's $25 on eBay. But that's the cheapest you're gonna get it. It used to be like 75 to 100. So I think some new copies just came out and are circulating around the eBay there. So if you got a chance to grab it, I do recommend picking it up. It goes a little more into 9/11 in Florida, especially with Wally Hilliard, who was one of the financiers of the Huffman Aviation Center. The two Dutch boys with Rudy Deckers and another guy. And then it kind of goes into Muhammad Atta's past with Amanda Keller, the stripper girlfriend. Um,
Yes.
it, it's very interesting because it destroys the narrative that it was spoon fed to us about these religious fundamentalists, and it's clearly not what they were. Um, there was numerous eyewitnesses to restaurants they were at, where they were wearing silk shirts, a lot of jewelry,
Mhm.
watches, gold, and one of the owners of the places where they ate thought they were a mafia, the way they were dressed, and that's what they didn't think they were terrorists. They thought they were like mafia, just because they had rolls of cash and all this jewelry. So um, yeah, very very interesting. Because like I said, we were told how these were just religious guys, and it's kind of the opposite. So Hopsticker's book kind of goes into detail of what they were doing in Florida, those years of training. So if you have a chance to pick it up, I do highly recommend it.
Let me ask you a follow-up question. What brought you to recommend the book? How did you hear about
Well, I've known about Hopsticker's book for years. Um, Actually, Hopsticker followed me on Twitter, and I followed him. I know you followed him as
it?
well.
Yes.
Uh, very good, very good investigator. He's like I said, what drew me to the book really more and more was Nelson's film about being Ada being a double agent. So this kind of coincides with Nelson's film, this book, and then also about Ada possibly being gay.
Yeah.
There's, yeah. So like I said, this book kind of coincides with Nelson's short film about Ada, the double life, and also being gay. So yeah, that's what kind of drew me more into buy. I've always wanted to get it, but it was so expensive, and now
Yeah.
that
Very. Right.
yeah, now it's a little on a cheaper end. That's what kind of how I wanted to read it because it was a little cheaper, and then of course Nelson made that short film, so I was like, well, they both coexist. Let's see what it's all about. So
Sure.
I'm glad I did.
Yeah, listen, thanks to you, you sent me that link to get the book that was cheap as $25.
Mm,
Because you're right, the book was cost somewhere between like 60 to
Yeah.
$100 or something like that,
Oh
because
yeah.
there was not many copies out there.
Right.
And with his passing, I figured, wow, there'll probably be no more publications from it. But thankfully there are, and I got one myself. I have yet to read it. I've always wanted to read it. I've heard about Hopsicker for years. I learned him through Paul Thompson.
Hmm.
And I started following Hopsicker about 7 years ago and decided to basically um, investigate more about what happened in Florida, as you say, because it's very underreported, actually. So you're right about that. I'm not too familiar with Wally Hilliard, to be honest with you. Um, and I would love to learn more because the nexus of the Hamburg cell, which is the 9/11 hijacker pilots,
Hmm.
Marwan al-Shehi, Mohammed Atta, Ziad Jarrah, are located in Hollywood, Florida. Who else
Hmm.
is in Hollywood, Florida? The Israeli art
Israelis.
student ring. That's right. And I
Right.
believe it's Hanan Sarfati. Am I correct on that, Darin?
I believe so. Now, Hopsticker's book does not touch on Israelis'
Right.
involvement, so just want to let you guys know there's no talk of Israeli. It's more the book touches more on Ada and German people coming from Germany.
Yes.
So there's numerous people from Germany that come with Ada. Ada even calls his name is Wolfgang Baringer, and
Yes, that's right.
Muhammad Muhammad Atta actually calls him my brother. So he's and this is why this book to me is so interesting because who are these guys from Germany? Are they handlers? Are they German intelligence?
Right.
It's we can make all the speculation. I don't know because I don't think we'll ever know because I think it's been covered up. So, like I said, I don't know who these guys are. No, we always talk about how there's Arab terrorists involved, Arab affiliates, but now we have some kind of like other foreign with German uh, people coming along with Ada. So I found that very interesting. The other people that were involved.
Yeah, let's touch on that for a little bit because you basically brought up a point that I was always interested in, and that was the German connection, German intelligence connection to Mohammed Atta in Germany. And I believe it was in the fall of 1991 that Mohammed Atta's father had asked a German family who he met a couple of years before that in Cairo, Egypt, to help with his son to continue his education in Harburg, Germany. And they actually I'm sorry, Hamburg. They suggested that they come to the city, invite to live with them, at least initially, after completing a course in the native language of German. Atta then travels to Germany.
He
And
stays with
for
them,
the
yeah.
right, and for the first time he lands is in July of 92. I don't know the specific date,
It's 92,
92.
yeah.
Okay. And he briefly resided in Stuttgart and then in the fall of 1992 moved in Hamburg to live with the host family and then enrolled in the University of Hamburg. And he traveled into the city an engineering planning course at the Technical University of Hamburg Harbor. Um, and according to historycommons.org, that's Paul Thompson's site, Muhammad Atta's father says his son goes to Hamburg 3 weeks after meeting the couple. But the 9/11 Commission,
Hmm.
in the commission report, says that they met in the fall of 91 and travels for the first time in July of 92. So there's a discrepancy in time.
Hmm.
Now, I would, you know, probably I'll volley it back to you. Um, there seems to be a timeline that's fractured here, and basically almost like a cover-ups involved with this German people that he's met with, Wolfgang Harburging, and I wonder if these people persuaded Otto to come to Germany to meet in Hamburg, and then later on meets with Mohammed Munir al Motasek, Saeed Bahaji, Abdel Ghani Mazudi, Marwan al Shehi, and Ziad Jarrah, the Hamburg cell.
Hmm.
What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so the book touches on the couple that took him in. I think he stayed there for 6 months, I
Hmm.
believe, and everything was paid for. So he stayed there, rent, everything was paid for. Hopsucker doesn't go in great detail the couple, but he calls him suspicious. He's just like weird. He just goes
Right.
there and lives there for 6 months for free. Um, it, 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 it it's this book's got me perplexed because
Ah, right.
there's it's made me think about other stuff because there's these there's a lot of lying and cover up
Right.
because in 2000 the epi Rudy Decker says in 2000 I think December was the last time he had contact with Atta, but I think it was Bob Simpson who was a cab driver for it's called Yellow Cab there in Florida. He was as he actually picked up Atta and Deckers in August of 2001,
Oh,
weeks before 9/11, that they were going to bars and hanging out, and they were very
right.
close.
Right.
But the FBI never did the investigation. They never questioned Simpson
Right.
about it. So there's definitely cover up, and like you said, with these time frames, they're not all accurate because there's eyewitnesses saying, "Oh no, like Deckers and Atta were weeks before 9/11, they were hanging
Right.
out." But
Right.
Rudy testified that he hadn't seen him since December of 2000. That was the last time he saw him. So Rudy Deckers is a con man. He's a fraud.
Hmm.
He's also and that's what I don't know how to put it into words. I do think he was a CIA asset because he has to be. I mean, he was like I said, he was got in trouble for fraud.
Right.
I know the intelligence agencies like to use con men. If
Hmm.
you look at with Operation Diamondback with Randy Glass, he was a con man.
Yes.
They
Hmm.
used him, and we know about Operation Diamondback. They use Israelis use people who go to jail. I mean, look at Ahmadinejad and for the 1993
Yes.
World Trade Center bombing. They use these people to be informants because they have a criminal history
Right.
to help them. Maybe not pardon them, but you know what I mean. Like maybe, hey, if you
Yep.
do this for us, we'll let you off.
Yep.
And I think that's what Deckers was. And I don't know if they were running an illegal operation, and I think they were out of Huffman Aviation because Wally Hilliard, his his plane got busted with 43 pounds of heroin on it by
Hmm.
the DEA.
Hmm.
It was the same plane that Barry Sale used during Iron Contra, and so it's just weird things. They're like, what the heck,
Right.
So like I said, I think there was some kind of operation. I don't know if they were running. The CIA was like, hey, we have some terrorists who are coming in here who want to
Hmm.
fly jets. Let them fly here. Get information for us. That could have been it, or possibly was there multiple Attas, like Nelson and his
Right.
film have shown. Could this been the one that was running heroin back and forth using
Hmm.
jets, using the planes, or was there another Atta that did the actual flight, flight 11? I don't know. It's all speculation, but this book makes you think, Adam, for sure, and that's why I recommend it.
Yeah, listen, let's touch on that just a little bit. What pays for black operations? Drug money. You can't have the CIA go
Right.
before a congressional Senate and ask for an appropriations committee for funding for a secret operation on U.S. soil because the CIA is not allowed to operate on U.S. soil. So, if we're to speculate, as you say, regarding Rudy Deckers and Wally Haley running a drug operation for either the 9/11 plot or some other plots,
Mm-hmm.
that's a reasonable speculative ad because we've seen this before with Arkansas and Bill Clinton, and of course Barry Seal, Iran Contra, what have you, and with the Israelis at the same time mentioned in the Gerald Shea memorandum
Right.
that they're living in Hollywood, Florida, right next to the hijackers in Hollywood, Florida. it's almost as if the CIA, the Israelis, and God knows who else, maybe, and probably, you know, Saudis maybe, but I never read the Saudis were in Florida, but they were in San Diego and Los Angeles. But nevertheless, it seems that the fingerprints of intelligence are all
Yeah,
over the place regarding it.
yeah, yeah, definitely CIA. I do think if I had to speculate, um, I do believe it was an operation, and I think they knew maybe these guys were coming in for flight training, and they let them train them,
Hmm.
and somehow didn't let didn't stop the operation or lost track. I don't know what, um, but there was something very fishy that happened there, and I really wish I knew 100% what was going on. And like I said, we'll probably never know. I mean, Rudy Deckers is dead now. Atta's dead. El Sheikhy's dead.
Yeah.
All these people are gone. So, um, like I said, I hate speculating, but I
Yeah.
think this here, there's where there's smoke, there's fire, right? Is
Mm.
that the
Mm.
saying? So something, and after Adam, I think after you read the book, you'll be in the same spot I am. It's gonna make it like, whoa, something was going on there,
Right.
and yeah, like I said, and it doesn't, and it shouldn't shock us that the CIA is running some
Right.
operation because we know all about the Canistro files.
Yeah, exactly right. Let me run a theory behind you because I just thought of something.
Yeah.
Maybe it's unreasonable. Maybe it's, I'd like to get your opinion on it.
Mhm.
You know the story, of course you do, regarding Mohammed Atta wanting a crop duster plane, I think in Oklahoma.
Mhm.
I don't know the state offhand, but do you think that Atta and Al Shehi and Jara were learning to fly planes not for the 9/11 plot, but for drug running? And it just so happens that these people, whether they were the legitimate real people or doubles of these people that hijacked the planes,
Mhm.
and then they were flown into their targets by either their own hand or remote control airlines, and then blamed on these people in order to kill them because they were involved with drug running anyway. And then they use that to basically say, aha, Islamic fundamentalists are the reason why they attacked the
Mhm.
United States. Is that far fetched?
I don't think it's far fetched. I don't know. I don't know how I could say it, Adam.
That's tough. That's a tough one
Yeah,
because speculation,
it
as you said, is hard.
it is. But if you look at with Jara, I think that there's possible evidence that he was even on Flight 93.
Mm,
I think that we can, and we know about his history, right? We know about
yes.
Ali and the Sem Jara, so we know his history of intelligence in their family. Um, I think there's a chance that Adam might not have been on Flight 11 either. Um,
Mm,
I, I do think that is a possibility because you have his father saying he called him a week after the
right.
attacks.
Yes.
So it is something you have to keep in mind. What was going on, right? And I do think too you have to look at is I think a lot of these muscle hijackers didn't know that they were even dying
Right. Right.
a martyr's death,
Right.
and I think and that's why I think Nelson's films are so important because
Mm,
he
yes.
talks, especially Bojinka film, he talks about numerous planes being hijacked and it didn't take off or
Right.
didn't happen. I really do think, and I just read, I think it was in Hopsticker's book that he talks about maybe a day before the attacks, they didn't know they were going on a suicide mission. And I think that's possibly true. And I think that's why a lot of them chickened out. I think some got cold feet
Yeah.
and didn't hijack or didn't show, all of them didn't show up. And that's where I think Nelson's films are important because there's numerous planes that we don't know about with possible hijackers, and maybe only two showed up, or maybe none showed up because they found weapons on these planes. They found this evidence on these planes. So, um, yeah, I mean, there's so many theories out there um, regarding if Jara or Ada them, or if there was multiple of them. I think that is a possibility, though.
Yeah, I mean, we could sit here for hours and talk about scenarios that could have come true or might have come true. But like you said before, and it's gospel truth, as I like to say, that speculation is merely speculation, shouldn't be used as a form of evidence. But unfortunately, we have a lot of fringe conspiracy theorists in the truth movement that, just run away with speculation
Mhm.
as a form of evidence. But you know, let's talk about other books that
Yeah,
could be useful for somebody who wants to learn more about 9/11.
yeah.
What other book do you think, what other books would you
Well,
recommend?
I'll give you two right here. I don't have the copy on me. It's actually at my work because I read it at work every so often. It's Peter Lance's Thousand Years of Revenge,
Oh, good book.
and
Mm,
you can get it for like $4 or $5.
yeah.
It's super cheap. And the reason I recommend this book because it talks about the 1993 World Trade Center bombing. It talks about the characters involved there. It talks about the Meyer Kahane assassination with El Sayed Nosir. I think that's really important step because I do think people need to learn 93 before we get to 9/11. So
Right.
Peter Lance, and I think Peter Lance has three books. He has the Triple Spy with Ali Muhammad. Then he
Yeah.
also has the 9/11 cover up book. So, but Thousand Years of Revenge, highly recommend if you're beginning to learn 9/11.
Mm.
Um, but it goes into 93. That's why I think it's important. So yeah, mark that one down. And then the other one I have here is one of my favorite books is The Black Banners by Ellie
Oh.
Safan. And this is the redacted one. So I do recommend getting the redacted version. Everyone knows who Ellie Safan is, the FBI agent who
Mhm.
worked with John O'Neill in the I-49 unit, who he's come out and said that he had the correct information regarding the USS Cole attacks, the Wafa Hazmi Al Madar, the Malaysian summit meeting, that they would have stopped 9/11 or at least
Right.
definitely interrupted it. Black Banners is a fantastic book. Highly recommend. You can get it super cheap. It's one of the best books on 9/11 that you can read. Um, this details Ali's work that he did with the FBI. It goes into extreme detail regarding the investigations, plots they stopped. And if you haven't seen Looming Tower on Hulu with
Mm.
Jeff Daniels, highly recommend watching that series. It's a 1 season, 10 episode series. That's fantastic. It basically um, goes over Lawrence Wright's book, The Looming Tower, that he has out. This is basically a book into a TV show. But I highly recommend that as well. But yeah, Ali Stefan's Black Banners and Peter Lance's A Thousand Years of Revenge should be definitely high on your list or in your library of books to own.
Yeah, and those are two great books. In fact, I got the Black Manners a couple of years ago, the redacted version.
Yeah, get the
And
redacted version. Yeah,
yeah, is there a unredacted version? I heard there is one.
that's the one I got. I'm sorry, I got the
Oh, okay.
unredacted. Yeah,
Okay.
sorry, I said
All
it
right.
wrong. No, sorry.
Oh,
No, the unredacted you want to get because you don't have to worry about
right.
the words being blacked out. So
Right,
yeah,
right. Yeah, and the Thousand Years for Revenge, I think is a preeminent book itself. It's very lengthy, but it's well worth the read. In fact,
it's, it's got
the
great
other,
pictures in it too.
yeah,
Great
it's
black
got
and white.
pictures I'd never seen before, by the
Mm-hmm.
way. I'd never seen some of those pictures. Um, he also has another book, and I think the name escapes a Triple Cross, actually.
Yeah, with about Ali
Right,
Muhammad. Yeah.
yeah, about Ali Muhammad. Um, so I'll give two book recommendations myself, and of course, it's the book that led me down to the discovery, of the intelligence and the Hamburg cell and the Al Qaeda communications hub in Yemen, and that is Paul Thompson's Terror Timeline book. It's considered the Bible of 9/11.
I
It
agree.
is what makes this different, Darin, is that from any other book, is that it's just like Nelson's films. It goes just by news articles, reports, and documents, primary source material that tells a story in chronological order of the lead up to 9/11 and on 9/11 itself. Just like Nelson's films regarding 93, Bajinka, 9/11 itself, and that's why I think Nelson's films are recommended docu-series watching.
Absolutely.
Um, Another book as well is the second book I ever got, and it talked in depth about the CIA's cover up regarding the Al Qaeda communications hub, and that's Kevin Fenton's Disconnecting the Dots.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, Thompson and Fenton are no longer around. They're not dead, but they just aren't active. And I love that book. I think that book is fantastic. I
It's
think
a
those are the
phenomenal
two
book.
best books I've read. Yeah. Have you
Yeah.
have any thoughts about those books?
Yeah, phenomenal books. Paul Thompson's book Terror Timeline is the Bible. It goes detail by detail, breaks down every time, the month, the year. It's a phenomenal book and it's super cheap, so I highly recommend it. Kevin Fenton's Disconnecting Dots is another great one. I'll add to it though. With Kevin Fenton's book, if you guys get a chance, The Watchdogs Didn't Bark by Ray Nozitzki and John
Oh,
Duffy.
yes.
That
Yes.
that's another great book. It's super cheap. Basically coincides with Kevin Fenton. Talks about the um, Alex Station and the CIA and intelligence failures. So those two books go hand in hand if you want to learn about the intelligence failures. Highly recommend those books. I can't stress enough those, and these books are super cheap. So like I said,
Yes.
you can pick them up for $4 or $5 on eBay. Hardcovers in great shape. So absolutely agree with you on your two selections, two phenomenal selections you picked. Absolutely.
What's unfortunate about all this, Darren, and we talk about this so many times on viral media, um, that there's very few, for me anyway, and I'd like to get your thoughts on this, regarding a recommendation of actual 9/11 journalists or advocates or
Mm-hmm.
reporters and researchers. And I think to me, this is the hidden crime of 9/11, as I like to say,
Mm-hmm.
is that we can, both me and Darren can name you 100 people that you shouldn't follow, but
Mm-hmm.
there are maybe a handful of people that you should follow. Darren, who would you recommend for people to follow on regarding 9/11?
Well, like you said, Adam, there's not too many. There's really not. To try to find the person who won't, you know, embrace kooky conspiracies, no planes, no hijackers. It's hard to find, but there is that small group of people out there, and you, of course, being one. Um, DJ Thermal Detonator, aka Nelson Martins, who I consider probably one of the best researchers in the world regarding
Yes,
9/11.
yes,
Does a phenomenal job. Guy knows everything from the 70s, 80s, 90s. Name it, he knows it. Sean Russell, my partner in crime,
that's
and our
right.
Sean's a great follow. He's very intelligent, man. That guy knows he knows his stuff. Um, you know, Ben and Eric at the
Oh,
PNACA news.
yes.
Those two are awesome. Please give them a follow on Twitter. They got a podcast. They do episodes. I was lucky to be on one of their episodes
Yeah,
a year ago, and I know you've been on there.
yeah,
Um, yeah, if you want to go with the OGs, John Gold
yep,
is a great follow.
yes,
His YouTube channel I still use a lot for references because he's got old videos on there from like the C-SPAN videos from
yeah,
2002 to those
yeah,
are just gold. He's got like the um the Jersey Girls, their testimonies on there, which is really
yes,
great.
yes,
If people are not familiar with them, they're the ones, like I said, they had their husbands passed away during the
yeah.
attacks, and they asked the government to form a commission, which they did. Um, wasn't to their satisfaction, and I agree with them. They didn't get the justice they deserved with the 9/11 commission. There were a lot of holes, definitely in the commission report, and they didn't get the answers they deserved.
No,
And
great.
but yeah, John Gold's a great follow. I talk to John every day. He's a good guy. If you get a chance to follow him, go ahead, and he'll talk to you all day about 9/11. So if you got questions, go ahead and ask him as well. There's Matt Winnicott is another guy. He's a newer guy.
Yes, yes,
I'll give Matt a shout
yes.
out because he's always giving us praise. But uh, yeah, Matt's a great follow, and I think he's
Yeah,
new.
he is.
I could be wrong, but he seems to be newer into this. But yeah, he's a great follow. So definitely highly recommend him. and there's others I might be missing. I'll let you, you know,
Yeah.
expand on mine, but those offhand are great files regarding 9/11. Of course, you got the big wigs like Ali Sufan, Mark Rossini,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
those guys. Ray Nozliski, the Watchdogs Den Bart author, he's on
Yes.
Twitter. Those guys as well. But yeah, like I said, those are the ones I follow and interact with a lot.
Yeah, no, by the way, you stole my thunder. Those are the very people I would recommend as well. And just to add to, look, I remember when I met you and Sean around the same time, and you guys have grown into be just prominent researchers and advocates yourselves. And I'm very proud of calling you professional experts on 9/11. You've earned that right because of your intense study and your
Thank
careful,
you.
meticulous research regarding it. And look, we're not patting each other on the back. I mean, we're basically doing this so we could keep this very important topic alive and to report honestly to you because unfortunately, like we said before, we know so many people that are
Hmm.
spreading disinformation about this subject, and
Sure.
it really angers me. But just to follow up on um, recommendations, one guy I got to know who I've known for a little bit, I think about the last 3 years. And he always caught my eye and I always forget his name. But this year, I'm going to push him for more and more. And I think he's an excellent researcher. He's very underrated and he's interviewed a lot of heavyweights. And that's Leonardo Salvaggio.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, Leonardo Salvaggio. Me and Leo are doing what me and you are doing, a
Yes.
collab every once in a while, and I love doing these, by the way. Um,
Yeah, it's
and
great. It's great.
yeah, it's great. I love doing them. Leo is just like you, and he basically, I don't have to prep. I don't have to not for you
Yeah.
or for him. And that takes a while. When if I had somebody on that doesn't know as much as you guys in regards to study of this particular subject,
Hmm.
and he's great. There's another new guy. He's I haven't seen a new video from him in a while. Who's been doing documents and chapter readings himself, and that's Jonathan Bellasort.
Yeah,
Um,
Jonathan. Yes. Hmm.
yeah, I think you follow him on YouTube, do you?
Yeah, he's got a YouTube channel that I follow. He's actually doing Hopsticker's book right now. I think he's doing chapter by
That's right.
chapter. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm glad he's doing them because, basically these books that we read and documents that we read, we're basically trying to spread, primary source material to put the pieces together regarding
Hmm.
9/11 because
Right.
again, nobody else is doing this. And I don't know why people won't, read primary source material because, they rather, propagate, these
Right.
false and irrational theories. Um, and also, just to add to, there are other like 9/11 research. Ryan Dawson is another. Ryan Dawson's been around forever. He's one. You have Tom Secker is another. And then you have Robbie Martin, Abby Martin. These are the old
Hmm.
people. But John Gold, yeah,
Yeah.
John Gold's been around for since 2001, 2, and he's the only one from that time period that is
Yes.
still active today. It's astonishing. And he's also an advocate because I remember one year I think he handcuffed himself to the White House regarding the release of certain information regarding, I think it was about the Iraq War or something like that relating to the 9/11 attacks. I could be wrong about that, but yeah, and that, I don't know who I'm forgetting, but
Yeah.
um,
I'll throw one
maybe
more
what,
person in. I'll
sure.
throw one more person in. He's a good friend of mine, and he's not on Twitter, but he's on Facebook. It's actually Mitchell Gray.
Oh
Uh,
my God, yes.
so
Ah,
I'll show. Mitchell has a book called "I Heard You're Going on Jihad,"
right.
and I highly recommend it as well. It talks about basically the Oklahoma, um, hotspot there for terrorism and Zacharias Massawi. Mitchell's actually immigration. He was an immigration lawyer, so he was like front and center with this regarding Massawi and Hussein Alatas, the one of the main characters in the book.
Yes,
So
yes.
Mitchell Gray, who's a friend, and he's a great researcher, very smart man. And he's another guy that he's on Facebook. He's not on Twitter, but he's a
Right.
great follow, and I highly recommend his book as well.
Yeah, God's sakes, and shout out to Nelson Martins for recommending that book to me.
Oh yeah.
And I got a
Hmm.
copy, and I don't know if he has any more copies left. But
It got re-released, so you can
oh,
get it on
okay, great,
Amazon, eBay. It's before it was you couldn't find it anywhere. It was just a
right.
short. He only had so many copies made, and it ran out of circulation. So, but yeah, it got re-released. So yeah, it's good to go now.
Okay, great. Because yeah, just like Hopsiger's book, it was
Yeah,
not.
yeah.
It
It was,
was there was very few copies available.
and if you found one, it was like $100. It was a crazy
Right.
amount.
Yes, it
Yeah.
was. Yeah. Um. All right. So, and unfortunately, we have to talk about this, but it is important to note that what of our opinions about who not to recommend,
Hmm.
and God's sakes, we could spend another hour on this. I'd rather not, but
No, no.
who are the worst? Who are the worst of the worst, Darin?
We'll make this quick because these people really don't deserve much attention at all.
Right.
The worst, wow, Adam.
Yeah, that's a tough
Yeah,
one.
it's a tough one. I'll go with the ones who are active, kind of still. Richard Gage is one.
Yep.
I'm glad he's got me blocked in every platform because
Same. Yeah.
I would go at him every time. Anytime he posted something, I was there talking about how it was full of crap. Richard Gage is one. He's a no planer. It's
Yep.
what he is. He's in it for the money. He doesn't give a shit about 9/11 truth at all. He doesn't. He just cares about his next vacation, and that's how I feel about him. Stay away from him. Um, Jason Burmis is another one. I don't know if
Yeah.
he's got me blocked because I called him out regarding his loose change
Mm.
films, and no plan at the Pentagon. I
Yeah.
don't know if he still talks 9/11. I don't think he does as
Yeah.
much, but he still has a platform.
Yep.
But Alex Jones for sure, stay away.
Yeah.
That's
God.
that's poison. Barbara Honegger's one, just
Yeah.
useless, just a useless person regarding 9/11. And then you get your small guys like you got like Craig McKee and
Yeah.
Adam Eisenberg and Adam Ruff. Those guys are just worthless, just no good. A lot of them are Sandy Hookers as well, and I mean by that is they don't think no kids were killed at Sandy Hook. A lot of your no planners are Sandy Hookers, and
Yeah. Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so those type of guys just steer clear from. No good. They're the reason why 9/11 went down that rabbit hole of no planners, no hijackers into this um, toxic saturation. Really is, and
Yes.
that's why a lot of people, and I hate to say it, a lot of people don't care about 9/11 much anymore because it's
Yeah.
so diluted with this toxicity from these people who actually don't think planes are hijackers or planes were swapped and they were killed in a facility. This is what I'm talking about. It's so bad, and a lot of them are going away. A lot because they're useless and they bring no new information.
Mm.
So they're pretty much getting put to the side. But there's still a few out there like Richard Gage and a few others. So you know what? Your best bet is steer clear of these people because we know what the truth is and we know what we're
Yeah.
fighting for.
Yeah, look, I don't even have to mention any more names. You mentioned all the active names that I either block or just ignore.
Mm-hmm.
And, just to add to that, why are we very critical of these people is because they actually propagate theories and never state anything regarding primary source material. They tell you not to read the 9/11 Commission report. They tell you not to read the Joint House inquiry. They tell you not to read the Inspector General reports of the CIA and the FBI. Now, if you don't read these, I'm not saying that we're defending these written works, that they're all gospel truth. As I like to say, and as Darin has also remarked on it as well, is that the 9/11 Commission report is not totally wrong. It's just an incomplete report because they never mention a whole lot of stuff like Able Danger, which is the DIA program, the Gerald Shea memorandum,
Mm-hmm.
the Saudi connection with the CIA. These were all covered up. These were all ignored. So you can't really just say that don't read these materials. What we want you to do is basically read this material, then fill in the blanks of what's missing. That's the reason why we do these chapter readings. That's why people like Darin and Sean and Nelson and everybody else we mentioned, they're out there publishing material tirelessly, daily, every day. and just to tell the people, hey, listen, this is what you're missing.
Hmm.
And we're also conspiracy theorists because we know there was a conspiracy involving 9/11, and that happened with pre-intelligence. So when
Yes.
people like Richard Gage and Adam Eisenberg and all these other people, and they talk about these no planes and living hijackers and CGI
Hmm.
planes, no plane crash at the Pentagon, Shanksville, all of this stuff is basically meant to dissuade and disconnect the real conspiracy involving foreign and domestic intelligence regarding the 9/11 hijackers pre 9/11. Without that, you don't
Hmm.
even have suspects. You
Right.
don't have nothing. In fact, all you have is an imaginary scenario of someone directing planes and crashing these fake drones or CGI holograms into specific areas. Meanwhile, the people that were in all these areas, like Shanksville, Pentagon, the World Trade Center, actually saw the plane and plane debris land on the streets and in the field and at the Pentagon.
Yeah, and just to piggyback off that is a lot of
Sure.
these so-called truthers hate the government, right? Well, they're doing the government a favor, Adam,
Ah,
by
good point.
promoting this because it takes
Mhm.
away the focus of what really happened, the pre-intelligent failures, the ineptitude of the government and those who were served to protect us.
Yeah.
It takes away from that. The CIA and some of the FBI and NSA, they love this. They love these conspiracy theories
Yes.
because like it takes the focus off of us. You know, so these people say they hate the government. And the government is all this and that. Well, you know what? You're helping them regarding
Hmm.
9/11.
Yeah, and you mentioned something that I want to touch on too about not many people following 9/11. I have a very good friend of mine, personal friend named Mike Garofalo, who
Yeah.
actually is a 9/11 researcher himself, who basically once told me, I think a couple of years ago, that, nobody's really paying attention because, 9/11 happened so far away. It's, years ago. And I got very mad at that because um, he was right. And not only that, is that I'm mad at myself because I came late to viral media. All right. I'm a
Hmm.
newbie. I've been around only maybe 6 years on viral media active. I wish that someone like yourself or Sean and myself or Nelson were starting with
Well,
the peak years like 2005 and six,
yeah, that's where we
that
needed
we
to be
could have had
around.
a bigger audience and maybe a bigger influence regarding
Hmm.
it. And I hate the fact that, here we are 3 years later. And, there's some of us still around, but it's a little late to the party, don't you think?
Yeah, and I say that because I don't think people don't they don't forget. Like they
Right.
realize it was a tragic day. It was 23 years ago, but you're never gonna forget it. At least I know I won't. To the day I die, I'll never forget what happened on that day because I saw it live. I saw
Right.
what was happening.
Yeah.
But what I think is people are not researching it as much or maybe going into it is because it's so saturated with these no plane
Ah, yeah.
conspiracies.
Mm.
And that's what we have to like kick to the curb. That's what we have to keep debunking and keep going at them because it's like it's not going to bring new people in as much because
Mm.
it's just like I said, it's so saturated with these bogus conspiracies. You can just go on YouTube and type in 9/11 conspiracies, and you'll get like 1,000 videos of flights 175 looking like it's slicing through the tower, and it looks like a missile underneath the there's a pod or underneath the pod, and there's a missile there, and you see that light you see before a plane. No, it's basic physics. It's it's inertia. It's what it is. Plane going to it causes energy. That's what happens.
Yeah.
But they think it's some type of missile or pre-explosion. So you can go on YouTube and just find all that conspiracy stuff. Just type
Yeah.
it in and boom, there's thousands of videos. You you can't really type in videos about 9/11 without getting any type of conspiracy
Yes.
or
Yeah.
kooky conspiracy.
Yeah. Right.
And I think that's what's watered down the movement so much is because after 23 years, Adam, we still have to fight with people about planes and hijackers. It's insane. It's absolutely insane.
I'm flabbergasted that 23 years later, we still have to basically say there were planes involved. I mean, that's how far behind these people are. And
Yeah,
I'll
so
just,
exactly, how do you move forward? It's hard to move forward when you can't come to the conclusion that planes were used.
Right. And I
With
never,
thousands of people on live TV and on the ground saw planes hit, and there for some reason they're holograms. What are we doing here?
yeah,
It's insane, Adam. It's mentally insane that people absolutely believe that, and majority of the population, you'd be surprised, do, because
yeah, it's
I
stunning.
we deal with them on a regular basis.
It's absolutely stunning. And,
Mm.
I shouldn't be shocked. But I'm still baffled at the fact that we have so many people within the truth movement who basically propagate, the idea that no plane crashed into the Pentagon or Shanksville, and you have hundreds of eyewitnesses. Oh, because there's no video of a plane crashing in the Pentagon. Well, I didn't need a video to know what happened there. Well, that's like we didn't need a video to know that the Titanic sunk in the Atlantic Ocean. How do we know? Because people were there to see it happen.
Well,
And not only
well,
that, you have plane debris that was located
yeah.
inside and outside the Pentagon.
Well, if a video came out tomorrow, they wouldn't believe it because they say the government altered
Yes.
it.
Yeah.
So
Mm.
it's a lose lose situation. So
Yeah, I agree. And you know what? I think I asked that question once to I forgot that guy's name, but he's friends with McKee and them, and I asked him,
oh,
uh
Xander Arena.
yeah, thank you,
Yeah,
Xander Arena.
oh yeah, he's another one. Don't pay attention to
Yeah,
him. He's yeah.
yeah. I once asked him, I said, Xander, if the Pentagon released the video of the plane hitting the Pentagon. Would you believe it? And he said, no. I said, well, there you go. You made your mind right up that no plane crashed at the Pentagon. And that's why, look, another point just to add to this, Darin, is that none of these people that we mentioned, and anybody else that propagate these theories, not one has ever been in court to
Never,
prove these theories that's correct.
because
And
they
what they'll
can't.
tell you,
Yeah.
the default position is they'll tell you, well, the courts, of course not, because they're in on it too. They serve in the interest of the state. Okay, if that's true, what are you in this for? What are you in this for? If you're not
Right.
here for to push for judicial prosecution of those who may be guilty of malfeasance or even complicity, what are you in this for? Well, we're in this for to remind the people, remind the public that there's information. And if we have enough information that's shared with the public, we can actually build a real movement where we can actually pressure the government to make a new investigation. Or, hey, maybe, wait a minute, bring somebody to court to prosecute.
Hmm.
That's all I'm interested in. I know that's what you're interested in too. And I know you wanted to talk about state sponsorship. This is
Yeah.
something the truthers don't talk about. So I'll let you have the floor.
Well, I mean, state sponsorship. So we always talk about. At least a lot of people talk about, oh, the U.S. government did 9/11, this and that.
Yeah.
George Bush did 9/11. Yeah, we're not going to talk about that. We're going to talk about how there was state sponsorship. So, we the first one I think we have to start with is Saudi Arabia, right?
Yes.
We definitely have to start with them because we know the involvement out west, okay, with Nawaf Hazmi and Khalid al-Mihdhar, which we talk ad nauseum about them and how there was Saudi government officials involved with Osama bin Laden and Omar Mayoumi, Fahad al-Thumari, given logistical support. We know about Prince Turki bin Faisal. We know about Prince Bandar, and then we know with Faisal through his wife and how through Rick's Bank, how money was given through Omar Bayoumi to give to the hijackers. We know all about that. So
Yes.
we know about Saudi Arabia, and we can talk ad nauseum about them with the CIA through the Canistera files, which I recommend if you have not read the Canistera files or saw your video,
Yes.
because your videos, you do videos reading it, please do so because it's so important. It's probably the biggest document we've gotten
Yes.
in,
Yes.
in forever, it seems like. But the one that's the most popular, and I think you agree with me, is the Israelis. And
Yes. Yeah.
that's the most popular one because, and there's people like Christopher Bolin that kind of started this with blaming every Jew under the sun for nine
Yeah.
11. He blames the janitors that were Jews. He blames everyone. He just blames everyone that was a Jew involved in
Yeah.
9/11. It and people and I respect Ryan Dawson to a certain extent, but Ryan still does the Israel did 9/11. I just I don't agree
Yeah.
with that
Yeah. Me
because
neither.
and the reason why I don't agree with it is because it wasn't Israelis who hijacked the planes, and it wasn't
Right.
Israelis who flew them into the targets. Okay, so I don't know how you get Israel done on 9/11 when they didn't do that. Can we talk about intelligence and how they were there and monitoring the hijackers? Yes, that's what we need to talk about. We need to talk about how they were in Florida, how they were in New Jersey, New York. We need to
Yes.
talk about the art students, the 200, who were going around to government officials, to the DEA, FBI, going to houses for art. We need to talk about
Yeah.
that because it seems like they probably got wind of a plot and maybe didn't pass that information on. Maybe they decided to let it happen because we did find out through the dance Israelis who were arrested that America got to experience what we experience on a daily basis. And I think the country that benefited a lot from 9/11 is Israel because
Yeah.
now what they like to do, and we're seeing it right now with the war in Lebanon and over there,
Yes. Yes.
is they like to get the United States to come in. Big brother needs to come in and clean up the mess that little brother's doing. And I think that's what the Israeli intelligence got wind of this plot and decided maybe not to pass on that intelligence because now we can get United States into the war to fight Iraq, go into Afghanistan, go into Syria, go into these countries that are enemies
Yes.
to us and fight our battles. And that's what Israel always done. They've always allowed the United States to come in and try to clean up and stick their nose you know, in business that doesn't belong, you know,
Yeah.
to us. Because if you go back at them, and a lot of people don't know this or don't care to research it, is we're always giving this idea that they attack us because of our riches or because of our women or the way we dress. That if you go back to the Ramzi Youssef trials, who was one of the bombers of the 1993 World Trade Center bombing, he states why he did it. And it wasn't because of what the government always says, he said this because our Middle East policies, it's our support for Israel. It's what we did as to other countries. Such
Right.
he
Right.
brought up World War II with Nagasaki and Hiroshima and the nuclear bomb. He tells how the United States are hypocrites, how they're the butchers, and how they've done wrong, and stuck their nose in you know in business that they didn't belong. He talks about how with the Iraq sanctions and how that killed you know I forget how many people were killed in Iraq with the sanctions over
Half
there.
half a million.
Half a million. He talks about that. That's the reason why they attacked us. It's because the United States sticks their nose in Middle East business where it doesn't belong. And when you go over there and you bomb, you know, certain parts of Afghanistan or Iraq, you kill innocent people, you create terrorists. You create people who now hate you and want revenge.
Mm.
And nobody has to blame but themselves, but the United States and the government for their policies. And I hope it never happens, but I wouldn't be shocked that something like another 9/11 could happen again because we continue
Yes.
to middle in the business of the Middle East, and it doesn't belong there. I mean, I'll just give you an example. Osama bin Laden's son has risen up for Al Qaeda,
Yes. That's right.
and he's talking, and we left what billions of dollars of equipment when we abruptly left Afghanistan. They have all this equipment, brand new equipment we just left there
Yeah.
when we deserted Afghanistan like we did. And now he's talking like that the West needs to be punished. So
Right.
I'm sorry to go on a long tangent here, but people need to realize they attacked us not because of the riches and all our stuff we have freedoms. It's because of our Middle East policies.
Yeah, and look, a lot of great points you raised here. And just to compound on the Israeli role, and everybody likes to blame Israel for what's going on because they are front and center right now in a lot of war crimes that are happening in Gaza and Lebanon. Now, granted, they're run by a bunch of psychopaths led by Defense Minister Yoav Gallant and, of course, the Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and other ghouls from the Kahanis sector like Ben Gvir. and Shapiro and all these other people, right? Um, but needless to say, they did not hijack these planes. They did not steer these planes, and there's no evidence for that. Now, if you want to speculate that they
Hmm.
did, please, mention that you're speculating that, yeah, they were. But if you're going to speculate like that, it's going to be unreasonable because what are you basing it on? Nothing. You're
Hmm.
basing it on nothing. So what you should do is basically read a report called The Suspicious Activities Involving Israeli Art Students at DA Facilities. This is what the Gerald Shea Memorandum, which I did a whole section on my playlist regarding chapter readings of that important document. And it comes from the Drug Enforcement Administration Office of Security. And it was a report written in June of 2001, where the DA Office of Security Programs began to receive reports of Israeli art students attempting to penetrate several DEA field offices, as well as spying on the FBI, Southwest Laboratories, and just so happened to live to every single nearby, every single of the 9/11 hijackers, all 19, from San Diego, Los Angeles to Florida, New Jersey, New York, and
Hmm.
Virginia. So this DEA report, which is what the Gerald Shea Memorandum expounds on, and also talks about the moving companies, all talk about at length why these people were doing what they name, and also they name names of these people. In fact, the Gerald Shea report document actually has over, I think it was like 90 names that were related to it, but there was over 200 people that were arrested. So, and if you, and I also mentioned the backgrounds of these people, and some of them have signals intelligence backgrounds, some of them
Hmm.
have explosives ordnance backgrounds. Why are these people selling art, right? And it's just
Right.
suspicious. But the only thing that's missing, Darren, are specifics. Were these people spying on the 9/11 hijackers in the hopes of having these hijackers hijack these planes in order to have successful attacks where the United States would respond to Israelis' enemies, which are basically Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, Jordan,
Hmm.
and Iran later on, Libya as well? By the way, the Muscle hijackers came from where? Saudi Arabia.
Hmm.
The other pilot hijackers came from all over. They came from the United Arab Emirates, Egypt, Lebanon, and Yemen. And
Yemen. Yep.
it's just fascinating to me that none of these countries were ever attacked for their role and alleged role inside the 9/11 operation, and nobody got fired. You love to mention this. It's something that really grinds my gears too. Is that nobody got fired
Hmm.
regarding the intelligence services inside the
Hmm.
United States for fucking up the or not sharing information with the FBI and the State Department. But yeah, this is the reason why people like Darin and Sean and Nelson and myself and Ben and Eric and everybody else, even Mike Garofalo, we're all trying to share information in the hopes of educating the people responsibly about
Hmm.
what happened with 9/11. Darin, is there any final thoughts on your part?
No, I think we covered a good basis there. Books are always good to read for information. And we gave some recommendations, and maybe next time we do another episode, we'll recommend some more. Stick with the people that we kind of mentioned regarding 9/11. There's gonna be others out there as well, but stay away from the kooky conspiracies. They lead down a path of nowhere. It's just not worth it. Just real quick, like I said, I started 9/11 research in 2013, and I was a Christopher Boland follower, and I I went down that rabbit hole as
Yeah.
well. But as you start to realize, like, he offers nothing new, nothing besides blaming every Jew imaginable. There's more to it, and I'm so glad I was able to find you and Nelson, Sean, and others, to get out of that rabbit hole, because everyone's done that. Everyone who's been island research has probably fallen down that rabbit hole of
That's up.
conspiracies, and
Mhm.
it's all about finding the right information, the right answers, to those questions you have. So I'm glad I did that. But like I said, 9/11 is huge. It is
Yeah.
There's so much information to cover, and because you can go back to the 60s, 70s, and 80s and 90s to the leads up to 9/11, and there's so much information out there. But like I said, just like I said, reading some of these books, following some of these people, it will help you understand 9/11 a little easier for sure.
Yeah, listen, the credit goes to you for actually, finally realizing, hey, wait a minute, there's nothing new to offer, and there's real information out there
Hmm.
to learn from.
For sure.
Um, and look, there is a lot of conspiracy involving 9/11,
Sure.
and we are basically sharing that information with you. And look, you can easily get persuaded by the fancier sexier stuff, as I like to say, regarding no planes and living hijackers, whatnot. But just remember, that's a smokescreen and a dead end,
Hmm.
because all the people that Darin mentioned before earlier are no longer active. And there's a reason why. The only
Right.
people who are assembly active are probably Richard Gage and Adam Eisenberg. But Eisenberg is basically doing interviews in these small, really far right nationalist shows, and he's never going to be a popular person. And Richard
No.
Gage, he's been around for over 17 years, but he only talks about one issue, and that's the World Trade Center 1, 2, and 7. So he basically doesn't learn anything new. None of these people do. So then this is the reason why you don't hear of them anymore. And so, yeah, we'll leave it at that. And
Yeah.
we'll basically do more videos like this, and
Sure.
we'll do it soon enough. And Darin, where can they find you?
I'm very active on Twitter. Like I said, you can follow me on Twitter, message me on there. I'm active on Facebook in our group forums. We have a lot of group Facebook groups regarding 9/11 and some other stuff like the 1993 World Trade Center bombing and
Yep.
um, that other plots as well on there on Facebook. So you can find me mostly on Twitter. Um, like I said, me and Sean will be doing an episode tomorrow of our podcast, Beyond Ground Zero. So he finally has some free
Great.
time, so we'll
Great.
be starting an episode there, and then enjoy working with you, and we'll put out some more videos, maybe hopefully once a week or whatever we can do. So just to keep you guys informed of what's going on.
Yeah, sure thing. We'll try to be more prominent in recording. And also, you can always find me as Adam Fitzgerald
Yep.
911 if you Google it. I just come right up. Okay, listen, Darin, thanks for joining me. It was a great conversation. And we'll see you in the next video. Good night, everybody.